Hi, Leatherland. Welcome to Thomas time. I'm your leather friend in the computer, Thomas, and I wanted to talk to you today because I found something that was really interesting for me. I'm always looking for better, different, other ways to explain the label that is Leather Boy and what that means to me and what it might mean to other people. Because one of the major things with labels is that a label can mean one thing to you and a completely different thing to another person and be the same label. And a lot of why I started Thomas Time is to try to incorporate the newer generation of leather people, the millennials that are leather people that maybe don't even know that they're leather yet. Because I don't want people to have negative experiences. I had negative experiences kind of stumbling through this new and confusing leather world when I first discovered that it was a thing. And I'm trying to convey those lessons to the younger generations of leather people so that maybe they don't have to stumble the same way that I did. I saw this interview with Kip Davidson about what being a leather boy was for them. And some of the things that they said really resonated. And others I felt like would resonate with one generation of leather people, but might not necessarily appeal to younger millennial leather boys. So that's an interesting dichotomy that we have to consider, and I want you to consider. So I'm going to show you this.
Do you consider yourself a daddy boy, a daddy now, or are you still a boy?
I'd say technically I'm a daddy boy.
A daddy boy,
But
okay.
I'm primarily, I'll always have a boy in me. Not literally, but.
I had a picture, yeah.
I feel like the daddy side is much more, it's where I'm going, and it's, I want to mentor a lot, so I found a few different boys that I've had that largely wasn't about sex, it was about mentoring and teaching and seeing them develop in all aspects of their life. So it's, there's no rule book on how to be a daddy, just as there are some rule books on how to be a boy, but it's, I think it's about your heart.
So in this clip that I found with Kip Davidson, it's part of there's tape behind me. It's part of the Leather Archives and Museum. So it's one of the many interviews that they had. But this particular interview really spoke to me because it spoke to what is a leather boy, but also gave an interesting title for what a leather boy who is also a mentor would be called. Why I made this channel is to convey to younger millennial leather people who are into things like Twitter and YouTube and Instagram and Tumblr and Snapchat and everything that exists for us that the older generations sometimes don't get, sometimes don't want to get. This I feel like is going to become part of the Leather Archives and Museum, and I'm really excited about that, to add to that idea of laying down our subculture in the books, because our subculture is just as valid as any subculture. A lot of people think that the leather BDSM subculture centers around just sex, but like Kip said in the video, some of the relationships, that those meaningful mentorship relationships, didn't even really necessarily need to center around sex to be important relationships that fed them as well as the boy that they were talking about in that circumstance. It was really fun to watch this video. I want to encourage you to go out into YouTube, not out of your house. You don't have to leave your house. To go into, your search bar, Google or YouTube or whatever your favorite format is, fucking Pinterest if you feel like it, and look up the labels that you feel like apply to you. And let me know what you find in the comments below, because I'm really interested. And thanks to the Leather Archives and Museum for existing, and to Kip Davidson for giving that interview. That was really amazing to watch, and I really enjoyed hearing what Leather Boy is from another perspective. I don't feel like there's ever anything wrong with getting more than one perspective on a label that you feel like applies to you, especially if you feel like it applies to you. You want to know what other people think that is. You know, I get a lot of questions about why I go by Omega. In certain circles, I'm known as the fucking Omega. There is a story behind it, and I also recommend you go out and Google Omega in a wolf pack scenario, and you'll be interested to read about what that member of the pack does and what their purpose within the pack is. And I think that you'll see some semblance to my story and my life as far as I've shared it with you here on YouTube and on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram and every other forte that I'm on. So that's it for this Thomas time, and thanks so much for sharing a moment with me. Like up this video, subscribe if you haven't already to become part of this leather family, and go check out the Leather Archives and Museums YouTube channel. They have a lot of amazing interviews. I bet you anything you can find an interview with somebody who labels themselves in a way that is similar to your own, and you might discover new words. And I'll see you next time on Thomas Time.